much for being back. If you just joined us, you're still on to Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get to our conversation for this morning. The implementation of the Supreme Court's ruling granting autonomy to local governments has hit fresh obstacles as several state governors have reportedly warned local government council chairmen against opening Central Bank of Nigeria CBN accounts for direct allocation of payments. This move is part of efforts to resist the federal directive that supports direct funding in line with the court's decision. Despite the federal government's setup of a panel to implement the ruling and the CBN's directive to open accounts for the 774 LGAs, most councils have yet to comply. Only Delta State's LGAs have reportedly submitted their account details. The delay has been linked to governors allegedly intimidating council leaders and setting up roadblocks to retain control over local government funds. Local government chairmen from various regions speaking under anonymity disclosed that their governors threatened or discouraged them from complying, with some refusing compromises like remitting a portion of the allocation. Some also cited CBN's stringent requirements such as submission of financial statements as another challenge, although many believe the governor's reluctance stems from fear of losing access to the LGA funds. While a few governors appear open to the change, many have proposed that LGAs use commercial banks instead. It remains unclear where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu stands on the issue. I still have with me Emeka Madunagu and Innocent Aduluba. Emeka, I'd love to start with you on this particular one. Of what use then is the whole local government autonomy thing, which of course if Bola Ahmed Tinubu is to review his resume, would add that at the topmost of his achievements?
Oh, well, thank you. The executive, the federal government actually went to court to get the implementation of section, I think 162.3 of the Constitution as amended, 99 Constitution as amended. But the point is that implementing it, it's difficult because the same Constitution still retains political control of the local governments in the state houses of assembly. So it is one thing for you to say the councils can open their accounts and receive allocations directly. It's another thing for the same constitution, to say that they are subject to the state houses of assembly. So to that effect, I think this whole thing didn't need going to the Supreme Court to get any court order. It was actually more about dialogue. It was actually more about dialogue, between the president, the governors, and local government chairmen, a political solution. It's not everything that you get through the courts, because you might just end up complicating matters, and which is what we have seen today. Now you're talking of financial statement. Do you know many of the local governments are just like, they're just like branches, departments, in the governor's office. So they just their funds are just like out of pocket funds. There are governors who pocket local government allocations. They just leave enough for them to pay salaries, pensions, and allowances. At the end of every month, and then they pocket the rest. There's this state local government joint account, which states had actually been using to control the local government, but now. Along the line, there was a time that local government accounts were removed, and state government accounts were removed from commercial banks and moved to the central bank. But they complained that their funds were not yielding interest. That you can't keep, funds idle in the central bank. That don't yield any interest. Now, excuse me, there was this recommendation somebody made, that instead of giving allocations directly, that is better you convert them to bonds.
Please explain to us.
Which are tradable. Bonds are tradable. Yes. Bonds are tradable instruments. So in other words, if you are awarding contracts, if you're awarding contracts or things like that, capital projects, you can tie them to those bonds. So tie payment to performance, because the bonds, you can now issue bonds to contractors.
Okay.
So the contractors can use those bonds to get a bank guarantee to finance their projects. So instead of giving money, say you are giving money, directly, you can use those bonds to hedge against inflation. But the problem, the downside of it is that, if the economy, dips, the value of those bonds will dip. And then you will need to have to shore it up. But be that as it may, it is necessary, for us to do something about these direct allocations. If they go to commercial banks, well, the funds will generate interest for the commercial, for the states and local governments. But for me, where I want to anchor, in this first comment is that there should be a conversation involving political stakeholders about what nature of governance we want at that level, at the council level. Do we want them to remain as a third tier of government, or do we want them, to be under the state? So we scrap allocations to local government, transfer them to the states, so that we now put a clause that states must ensure equitable distribution of resources to all portions of their jurisdiction.
No, very, very true. Innocent, I'm a strong advocate of intentional leadership. And when I take the opportunity to study leaders who have had this opportunity, like Lincoln Yu, who is very strong at ensuring that what he has in mind is what comes to pass. When you take a look at our president, he made an awesome move allowing for local government autonomy. The sake was for local governments to be in charge of their finances, so the dividends of democracy can get to the least amongst us. But a situation where he had done all of that, and yet what we are requiring or demanding from those who are supposed to make it happen is still up there, hanging somewhere. What then is the intentional desire of the president in all of this?
I'll take it from where Emeka left it off. Perhaps this is an open demonstration of the dissonance of the government with that court injunction, rather than maybe a political solution. In Nigeria, every governor sits atop vast resources. So if you channel this allocation directly to the local governments, you are chunking off the financial powers of the governors to that extent. And a viable financial base is the security of a democracy. And the local government, as it were, I also think the process we are taking is a bit hasty, like an afterthought. The local government in some countries is a serious business. Local governments in South Africa are in charge of road construction, housing, welfare, the safety net, employment. And so in South Africa, I'm calling South Africa because we're in Africa, local government elections are bigger than presidential elections. So the intentionality is where I'm headed.
Yes.
The system of Nigeria should be well intended about the structure, sources of finance, and operationalism of the local government. The local government, even in this report, are in quote, you can see the body language, they are on the wrong end of the bargain. And so they are I don't know if Emeka agrees, they are coming from a position of pleading. So that tells you a local government chairman is occupying a compensatory position, possibly facilitated by his governor. So he cannot confront the governor and call a bluff and go ahead. More so, some requirements, some prerequisites to that account will be provided by the governors. I hope I'm in. So you now begin to massage ego on something that is an issue of constitutionality. Again, on another level, the governors are grandstanding against the president, because this is a presidential policy. Let me use that word if it's allowed. And so it behooves government. And look, worldwide, the words of a president is policy. You just get behind it and make it happen. And that's where I align with Emeka, who say we have laws, but bad laws. It is legal, but it's almost immoral.
Are you sure we have bad laws? Can you repeat that again?
Yes.
We have
laws that are bad laws.
That are bad laws. Do you think it's the laws that are bad, or the people who exercise such laws that do not ensure that such laws are driven to what they are set out for?
One bad law is what people are protesting now, the cybercrime. If you make it legal, it will be a law. If I go against it, I'm on the wrong side of the law, but my freedom was limited. It's a law, all right. Another law we see now is if you are aggrieved in the Senate, more like writing a petition, you cannot sign it for yourself. You will look for somebody else to sign it. And you may not get, nobody wants to be seemingly a proxy conspirator with you. But that's the law. You know, so it is one thing that if you drive in traffic, some of the traffic lights, I mean, it's illegal to beat a red light.
Yes.
And so you see some light, 30 seconds, counting down, you prepare yourself and move.
Yes.
The others are numberless. That is that is bad law. Because as at the time I'm moving and it turns, I might be in a no man's land.
Yes.
I cannot say I did not beat traffic, but was I prepared? Why can there be no uniformity of numerate traffic? You know, so it is one thing to be lawful. We are talking Trump and tariff. Those are laws. There are laws. Are they good laws for the long term with regards global partnership as regards trading? So that law, however it is, should, you see, there are aspects of the law that are not contemplated at the beginning. You know. So maybe that, like he has said, they need a round table. They shouldn't go to court again. Look for a political solution. Because the governors like to be in charge of massive resources as their war chest for defense. You know, that's where their powers come from. So, and truth be told, it's not as if they carry out what all the resources are intended to be. Because if we talk Lagos sanitation and all, with regards to where that core member was coming from, those are aspects of local administration that were overlooked. Very well. You know. So I think we need, in all of this, there are persons involved, and that's where in Nigeria the silence from the presidency are too long.
Well, is it just about the silence of the president is too long? But Emeka, do you think that silence, in quote, is a story itself that needs to be deciphered? Because when someone is silent over a very sensitive matter, it's telling a story. I guess it's about who should maybe define what the story is and help us make sense of it. So do you think the silence of the president is a narrative that we all need to sit down and understand?
That's why I said I call for a dialogue. Because if you know, under President Buhari, he signed executive order number 10, which he felt would bring about local government autonomy. But he failed, because the governors threatened to take him to the Supreme Court. So.
And what did Bola Ahmed Tinubu do?
Tinubu went to the Supreme Court just to remind the governors of Section 162, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which says that all funds accruing to the Federation shall be paid to the Federation account and shared between the federal, state, and local government. It's been there.
And Buhari didn't see that.
He's now there.
Buhari saw that, but he tried to plead with the governors. He pleaded with the governors. Do you know that? Okay, look at your prologue. Said that only Delta State has opened. It's only in Delta State that local governments have opened their account. So do you know there is this form, this tendency for hypocrisy in our politicians, which is very sad. You see how they conduct local government elections. It's more like a coronation, you know. So they bring their own people, you know, and then just in some states there is even no election. So they just put in their people anyhow and they swear them in. Nobody, even the election tribunals are just a charade. Now, you cannot trust the local government chairman whom you forced on the people. You cannot trust them to protect your interest. Those of them who are APC, like President Bola Tinubu, they cannot trust the fact that Tinubu will not, usurp their control over the councils. Then where is the honesty? So why do you blame the people when the people say they don't trust the government? They don't trust their leaders. When the leaders themselves don't trust each other, that's where the cookie crumbles. Because I expected, Delta is a PDP state. Yeah. So none of the 22 APC states has implemented that Supreme Court directive. None of the 22 APC states has gone to liaise with the CBN panel.
Well, they say this because of the stringent nature the CBN has brought. So how is it that the PDP state...
So how was a PDP state like Delta able to meet those stringent measures? That tells you something. Something that I thought the EFCC by now, the ICPC, should have looked into. That tells you that there are no statements of account to render. That's a simple thing. Because you have laws on procurement. And procurement law says you should not pay public funds into private accounts. But what it shows is that these things are being practiced. Because if you say bring statement of account, if you say bring the statement of account, what's the statement of account? Just statement of affairs. Yes. How have you been running your, if the tax authorities, come to a company, how have you been running your affairs?
Income expenditure.
It may even be a long notebook. You just show one small notebook. We bought a detergent for 200 naira. One driver took 500 for lunch. Just statement of affairs. But you don't have any. Because the governors will just call, how much is there? Accountant General of local government, how much is available? Okay, just bring it in cash. So immediately the allocations come from, from Abuja. They just, so that tells you something. And I think the media should investigate it. Because if only one state has, that tells you the rot in the local government. And the interesting thing is that not even Lagos State, which has been under the president's control for over 25 years, has complied with it. So could there be a form of self-indictment staring at the president? Yes. Could that be a form of, because I thought I would have said Lagos State has complied.
Number one, yeah.
When President Buhari was trying to push the amendment for local government autonomy, Lagos was one of the states that refused. When it got to time for the states, for them to get two-thirds, support for the local government autonomy, Lagos was one of the states that refused. All the APC states refused. It was PDP states that were in support of local government autonomy. So what are we talking about? So that means the president himself charity must begin at home. Because none of the people in the local government is there without his knowledge.
Of course.
It's a Baba Sokwe crazy, like somebody says. It's a Baba Sokwe that the leader has spoken. That is how things are run in Lagos State now. We all know about that. So the fact that, so far, Lagos has not joined. Ogun State has not joined. Even Edo State, where the governor has been running up and down, trying to force everybody into APC. Why not implement this? Why not implement what the president has said? Is it in Imo State? Where the governor tries to show everybody that he loves the president more than any other person. Why hasn't he implemented it? Ebonyi State, why have they not implemented it? So that tells you, if you go to the case of corruption, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there because there was something I saw about how local government, funds had been, allocated that I just don't want to go there, But that is a picture of the state of affairs in local government. So in local government across the country. So some of them, you just find out that you go to local government councils in the course of the month, you won't see anybody. Many local governments, by the end of the month, if you want to see them, just come towards the end of the month. When they will gather to collect their salaries, they'll just gather under a tree and collect their salaries in cash and go away. Or if there's rice or something to share, from government. So that tells you that the entire local government system in Nigeria is a charade, is a scam, is a farce. But the president must push political considerations aside and face the fact. He must bite the bullet. If he's going to hurt his party, no problem. If he's going to hurt his party one way or the other, no problem. But we must get to the bottom of the local government charade, because you know what? All politics is local. All development is local. That you have this widespread poverty in the country is because the local governments are not functioning. So if your road is not okay, you will call Tinubu. If there is no regular power supply, whereas the local government chairman lives within your locality, if things are not working well, you will march to his house, block his gate that you won't leave until you address us concerning this thing. So people won't have to be going to the House of Assembly to protest. All this take it back movement should actually focus on the local governments. Get local government, but they will tell you that there's nothing. What you see, all those allocations you see is just on paper. How much are we getting? Even internally generated revenue. You see, federal, state, local government. I think federal has about 7 taxes or so. States have about either 14 or 20. But local governments have the most, about 40 different taxes. Name it.
Very, very well, because
name it. So yes. Why should there be poverty at the grassroots? Because even without federal allocation, people are living in those places. People eat, right? People go to bed.
Sales.
People marry. People give birth. People die. There is sales. There are all kinds of things.
Land tax.
All kinds of. Do you know even in some states they charge cemetery tax? I learned in some states, yes. I don't want to mention one state in North Central that they charge cemetery tax. That if you want to bury somebody, they have to pay tax to government. And so when you look at all of those things, there is money at the local government levels. But both the one coming from Abuja, squandered. The entire generated revenue, squandered. Ecological funds, don't forget, local governments also have ecological funds, squandered. There are different funds, so if I begin to mention, there are different funds. We just look at local government allocation because that is the one everybody sees. The other allocations that are blown. Paris Club Refund Fund. Everything blown. The corruption in this country is mind-boggling.
Very so mind-boggling. This clearly reminds me a depiction of the BBC-sponsored USAID radio drama, One Thing at a Time.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Where, of course, it clearly explains some of these things that Emeka have just, elaborated here. How that the local government, the grassroots, is so in depth in, allowing corruption. Free flow of corruption. At its best.
Sorry, let me just quickly add. Please look at Ababa Port. As trailers are coming out of the port, you have state government task force. You also have local government. All the money is coming from all these trailers and tankers you see on the way. Where's the money going to? The money coming to local government, let me tell you, with the money coming to local governments, quote me, our definition of poverty should be maybe that, I don't know if you can help me. The definition shouldn't be that people, like the World Bank definition, that people live on less than $1 a day. No! The World Bank would have since revised it. Even the IMF wouldn't need to tell government to give money, 5,000 to, because the local governments alone can actually make money as much as 50,000, 100,000 available to people in their localities every month.
But my question is this, Innocent, as much as we try to get all of these things all wrapped up and of course, get solutions from it, do you think working on our electoral system would help us find a lasting solution to this thing? Possibly when it is the period for election, let's have a local government first, right? Such that democracy can start from the grassroots itself, so that this LGA chairman can be autonomous, right? And determine who even becomes the governor and the president, and or maybe when we start from the bottom up, it's going to help repair all of this big issue that we have that is coming from top to the bottom.
When it comes to election, the masses are the usual abandoned casualties that are shortchanged. Even if you choose to hold the local government elections before as the first, it is to the party's advantage. It is who they give you, they present as their candidate that you will vote for. I don't hope you are getting.
Okay, during the primaries,
whoever they allow to emerge.
Do they even vote?
No, I'm even letting him know that if you put it to that
do
way,
they vote?
It is who they. So he has told like a coronation. It's who they handpick. If you know, in the US, if you don't go for a public debate, you are not qualified to emerge as the candidate of any party. It's a standing political doctrine. But in Nigeria, you may want to run against me. You have good ideas. There is no debate. Even when there is debate, the party backing me already have plan B, C, and D. People will be well incentivized, motivated, compensated. Propaganda is allowed in politics. And of course, the almighty Agbero option, which you may not have.
Order.
So wherever you go and come, my language, my cliche is the political culture.
Correct.
Is that political culture? That's the takeoff. And he has mentioned Comrade Omoyele Sowore sticking out his neck for somebody who is not his kinsman.
Oh.
Those are the activism that can raise democracy to the desired heights. Will Sowore win governorship election in his state?
Even local government.
So the governance. There's a book. If you go deep into political science, books by Jean Blondel, there is a book called The Cult of the State. The Cult of the State. You know, so short of me saying the government is a cult, if I put it that way now, I'm the one saying it. But there is a book has been authored and it is called The Cult of the State. So Omoyele Sowore, Badebo Vivo Road, Kingsley Moralu will be told that they are permanent outsiders.
Absolutely.
Or too young. But people highly deficient of their credentials, their experience, their managerial capability, who are in the cult, are largely eligible.
So would we continue to live like this perpetually? Is that
Well,
what
the best thing for us, honestly speaking, right from the time of Gowon, there have been attempts to reform the local government. How do we reform local government? How do we reform local government? How do we reform local government? If we want to kill poverty in Nigeria, you know you can kill poverty.
Yes.
If you want to kill poverty in Nigeria, it is at the local government level. You must make local governments work. How they are going to do it, I don't know. But you see that brain they use in stealing, in looting the treasury, they should apply to some good things. How to make, I'm telling you, look, let me tell you. Local governments can actually be used to kill poverty. Do you know the population of Nigeria, 200 million? Do you know, look at the markets, go to the markets, look at the activities in the markets. It's only the federal government that will tell you that they have silos, reserved, for food. Where are the reserves of the state government? Lagos State told us the other day that they are building one at Lekki. Which other state is building a food reserve, a food bank? Which local government is building a food bank? To say that, look, we are going to keep the price of egusi at so and so. We are going to keep the price of yam at so and so. Because this state, there are no federal farmers. So you have a federal ministry of agriculture, but you don't have any federal farmers. All the farmers drill down to the local government. I'm a farmer. We've started now clearing and heaping. We should start planting. So, and it's in a local area. So, what's my business with the federal government? It is because everything, if I sell rice or garri to you, is VAT, is not vatable, is VAT free. So it's unless when I now package it, I package it, then I now confront the federal government to pay VAT. But when I sell it as cups of garri to you, I'm VAT free. So what I have to contend with, taxes at local government and maybe state government. But now imagine if you encourage many people to go into farming. Imagine the revenue that will be accruing, even if it is subsistence, then you start upscaling. But at least that's subsistence. Let there be activities, economic activities that will bring money to the local governments so that the money can go round. That's what I'm talking about. So if you want this country to become better, the local government. So I interviewed a mayor, the mayor of an American city some years ago. And she said she doesn't have a salary. Instead of Texas, she said she doesn't have a salary, she doesn't have an official driver. That all she's allowed to use, is the remaining from her campaign funds, the money donated by her friends and supporters during her campaign. That's what she's allowed to use. But are they running? If you even look at the newspapers, if you look at the news, the city has a newspaper, private newspaper. If you look at it, all they're talking about are activities of the local government.
Business activities. Water,
schools, security. You will hardly see news about the federal government. Many people don't even know who is the president of the United States. The governor, who is the governor? If he passes by, they don't know. But local government chairman, the mayor, they know the mayor. So when we have that culture of, drilling down, a lot of poverty will go, then a lot of all this tension will go, and we'll have a virile nation. See, to solve Nigeria's problem is not difficult. It's not difficult. You talk about political will, but it is a lie. It is because people want access to still be stealing money, open the treasury and just be looting. That's all. If we remove that propensity, Nigeria will be good.
Very, very true. Innocent, your last word on this, especially as against the Burkina Faso young military president has said that democracy cannot work in Africa.
Well, I have told you one time here that I agree with him 100%. And you think, for all the regards you have for me, I'm suddenly
tilted.
Somebody from the Iron Age. This is the position any government, as we are speaking now allows for this kind of local government, local model, Emeka just told you, that allows employability, that is open, whatever name they call it, and there is a stable, growing economy, society is peaceful. Emeka, I'm up for that government. I don't know by what name they call. Whether the government was provided by an army man, and we are all fine. I don't know. I don't know about you, Emeka. I'm okay. It's not the name. What people are against are abuses, frustrations, oppressions. I'm beginning to even wonder. I call it Olympic government every 4 years. Like we just analyzed now. A party brings someone who they back, throw up, to carry out their agenda, not the agenda of the masses. And then we shout that we are in a democracy. Democracy should not be overcolored. He just told you, okay, look at, this is Lagos. Go to like Oyo, Benue, Plateau, some of these states. Their local government chairmen don't live in they live in the state capital. There are visitors that come home. In fact, there was a time some years back, President Buhari's first term, I used to go to Abuja frequently. I dare tell you, a governor lives in Abuja.
There are about 4 governors.
He lives, and I see him on Sunday during mass.
Currently, about
he
4 or 6.
Abuja. So when he likes, he now goes.
Visiting.
It's actually very, very sad.
From
1929 to 1933, Herbert Hoover, the president of the United States of America, thought he was actually, building the economy of the United States during the Great Depression. But of course, he did not do that. He was doing what our president is currently doing now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, thinking that he was, of course, growing the economy, thinking that he was going to, inflate whatever it is, thinking that the people, the United States, should look at the long-term goal. But of course, the reality was that people were suffering. And since then, people would say that when a president, behaves such way, they say he is practicing the economics of Herbert Hoover. It's so very unfortunate that that's what we have today in Nigeria. And we just hope and pray that things will get better. Thank you so very much, Emeka.
Thank you very much.
And Innocent,
My
truly
pleasure.
doing wonderful with you guys. So that's just the time we have for today. We'd love to say thank you for being part of it. Please do well to visit us. If you may, you can always find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I'm Henry Gwebike. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.